All right, guys, welcome to Beard of Darkness book reviews. It is raining outside, but that's okay. My day has been brightened because I have a wonderful guest with me today. Really has been talking to me and a fan of my show and channel since the start. He was one of the very first guys to reach out to me. Mr. Steve Stark, how are you today, man?
Good. Yeah. Glad to be here, mate. At last.
Yes, at last. We've been talking about it for some time and schedule things and all that fun stuff. And I'm so glad that we're here because my wife and I have had so many conversations. Um, you were really nice at the beginning to send me a snippet from my indie spotlight
Yeah.
video, and you had mentioned in it that you had never done that before. What a professional video, Mike! It was so good.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Yeah,
It
look at my
was nerve-wracking.
It is at first. I get that. But man, you really knocked it out of the park, and that's where I got the screenshot for the thumbnail that I put on here. It was wonderful. You did such a good job, and it was great quality. We've got Nick Horvath here. He's a huge fan of yours.
I'm a big fan
Sledge's
of Nick
here.
as well. Yeah.
God, how could you not be, right? Have
Yeah.
you read?
I haven't read it yet. I ordered the paperback straight away on pre-order. So yeah, I have to have a physical book. I'm one of those guys.
Oh, I love that. Me too. I thought until I started doing reviews, and I'm still like your beautiful book, of course. I love the feel of it. I love the feel of books, period. But I get what you're saying. Like if it's just for like a review, it's nice to have the digital version. But if it's a treasured book that I talk with people and I know, we've been on a first name basis for a while, I have to have the book.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to be dropping my review for Nick's book on the day it comes out. So I hope you watch and I hope it pumps you up even more to read it because it's wonderful, man. So what have you been up to today? How's the weather?
Today, the weather's been pretty hairy down here. It's been raining like mad.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. You see the video I posted earlier, a little clip of?
Yeah, were you the waterfall?
Yeah, the waterfall. Yeah, that's not too far from here. It's like a half-hour's drive. So we went for a walk up there, of all days today, and yeah, it was absolutely belting it down. But it made the waterfall really powerful. So you can hear that on the video, I think.
I saw that. I love that. You've been putting lots of. You did your paddleboarding picture.
Yeah.
I saw that, and I showed my wife. I said, I don't remember what this is called. But this looks fun, and I've seen people doing it, and it looks like it would be really freeing. Like the paddle, you're standing there, you're in the middle of the ocean. I heard you mention sharks, right?
Oh yeah, we don't have to worry about sharks so much here, but there have been some. There have been I think tiger sharks have been sighted.
Ooh.
But we only get basking sharks around here, which they're really big.
Yeah,
but they don't do anything to you. They wouldn't bite you or anything. They're just scary looking when they see you.
I'll bet.
The thing I've had a close encounter with was a seal.
So give us the name of your book,
Sure.
as I'm sure most people know it, but and a little bit about it, the blurb, if you will.
Yeah, sure. So my book's called A Hot Dose of Hell, and it's about a young woman who's trying to find her estranged sister who's got lost in a world of drugs and has wound up homeless. And she's teamed up with a group of activists who are actually more out for themselves than they are for actually solving any problems. And she's journeyed with them to this town where she knows her sister is.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time as this is going on, there's a drug which has sort of flooded into this town, which is having a really bad effect on the people who use it. It's turning them into bloodthirsty maniacs, basically. And a whole bunch of them have been taking this drug up in this hotel, which happens to be where this girl's sister is. And that's where everything's going to sort of come to a head.
Nice. So yeah, the feeling I got when I first started reading it, gosh, with my personal experiences, and I won't go too much into it unless one day somebody asks me, but I've got darker times behind me. I struggled with some drug abuse issues. And I think that it helped. That's not a bad thing. I mean, it was a bad thing, but what I'm saying now is when I started reading your book, it gives me the feeling that I think that you were searching to give people.
Yeah.
And it was nice. It wasn't a bad thing. It kind of
Okay.
put me in the horror realm. Was that kind of what you were going for?
To sort of ground it in sort of a gritty reality,
Yeah.
and then gradually bring you into the horror. Yeah, that's what I like to do. That's what some of my favorite authors do. So yeah, that's
I
what I was going for.
So getting to a couple of the chats over here, we've got Kay's Hidden Shelf. She obviously runs a fantastic booktube channel. We've got John Douglas, another indie author, does booktube channel, fun stuff over there. We've got Nick
I know, John.
here. Yes, thank you for popping in, John. He's a
Cheers, John.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, cheers, John.
Oh, yes. Black and Blue Collar Reader. Hey, great cover, great title. Have to jump into this one. I agree with you. And yes, you do.
Oh, thank you.
Let's see here. Timothy Wolf, another indie author in the house. And Nick says, I love how well you wrote the overwoke Insta famous activists.
Yeah, they're funny characters. I did have a lot of fun with them.
So how long did it take to so what inspired this book, first of all? What was your inspiration for this story?
Sure. Lots of things from my life as well. There's a lot of me in there. I wanted to go with, we live in a time now where there's a lot of people want to shout about how great they are and what lovely people they are without actually doing anything. And I kind of wanted to poke at that, and you see it happen. I'd seen it happen with my own experiences with dealing with homeless people and drug addicts. You see the sort of what happens to those kind of people who are doing it for a pose when faced with the grim reality, if you know what I mean.
I love that.
Took that to its extreme. That was the idea.
Man, I like, see, this is why I do what I do, man. Like, just to get your words, I had an idea of what you just were talking about, that theme, but I love to hear it from your side of the spectrum, because it does. I wish everybody that read could talk to the people that they're reading, the author that wrote, because I really am, what's the word? I'm lucky. I'm what is the word I'm looking for? I got to think of the word now. It's gonna piss me off. I'll get back to that, ladies and gentlemen. To be continued. But I'm lucky. So I get to talk with you about an already cool story that I'm into. It's on my Discord right now. For my spooky month. So me and Matt from Go Read Books are going to update everything. That's one thing. If anybody's got some ideas for me to help with finding, what is the word? Moderators. And I believe I've got one, and he said he would do it. Mr. E.L. Montague. He's done a wonderful job. He keeps everything up and running on the Discord. But I'm going to have to ask Matt from Go Read Books, because I know he's reading your book and Seed. So we will update that. What is one theme? I know you said poking at people that kind of tout themselves without really doing much, but can you go a little bit deeper with like a theme that you explore in this book? Maybe even more like essential. I don't know how to say it. Maybe even more original.
Yeah, sure. I mean, to boil it right down, that's hypocrisy. What I'm talking about there, definitely.
You understood exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah. It's hypocrisy. It's vanity. It's all that stuff. There's also another theme about sort of how complex people are, as well. I think the characters are very, very layered. At least that's what I'm trying to go for. I hope you agree.
Yeah, 100. Yeah.
There's characters who, in some ways, they're bad, but then they'll do something quite heroic or quite selfless, and it's the ones that you don't expect to be like that have that within them. Whereas, the people who are going around trying to show off how great they are actually, they don't have that in them at all.
100%. Now, do you agree? I found this in life. It's usually the same in life, man. Like, a lot of the time, people are very unexpected. You get what am I trying to say? So you've known somebody for a week or 2 weeks, maybe even 10 years, and you've got this idea of them, and it may not be good. They may not be friends. You could have totally looked down on somebody, and all of a sudden they show this compassion or this like totally out of left field active love, or it could even be on the opposite spectrum, hate. So
Yeah,
what I'm trying to say is I get that in real life too. I think that's a very real thing you put in this book.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, you absolutely do see that.
100%. So I especially wanted to ask you this because this is, I think you're the first, gosh, I hope I'm right, but the first horror splatterpunk-esque author I've had on here, which is amazing because I'm a huge horror fan. In fact, before I was a fantasy fan, it was Stephen King, and that was about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I
Like,
love Stephen King.
yeah, and the movie.
It's an honor to be the first, I have to say. Very
Oh,
honored.
oh, thank you, man. I feel honored as well. Not only to have you here right now, but man, you've honestly been so nice to me and gracious from the very beginning. Colin's Corner, another BookTube channel, does wonderful. I have to get the camera that this guy uses because he does this thing. Like I believe it's a can. I think I asked it's like a Rebel or something, but he'll be doing his review and it'll be all zoomed in on him, and then he'll hold a book up and it does the autofocus.
Oh
And
wow.
it's so cool to do, like, or
Yeah.
see wonderful quality. So I wanted to make sure to point that out. He's got a wonderful channel. Just popping in to say hello. Hope you guys have a great chat. I can't stay the whole time, unfortunately. Hey, thank you for popping in, brother.
Cheers, Colin.
Let's see here. Some Okie dude. He also has a wonderful BookTube channel. This does sound like a cool book, though I hope it ain't an old man yelling at clouds book.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say about my age there?
Uh-oh. Fighting in the chats already. No, I'm not even quite sure. Elaborate on that, some Okie dude, down in the comments. I'd like to know more about what you mean. Nick, this is such a nice thing to hear. Dude, Beard, that's why this channel is so mint. Hearing from authors themselves is inspiring as both a writer and reader. Man, thank you for that. And he seconded my opinion totally with this. Perfect pick for the first horror author. Man, I couldn't agree with you more. Let's see. Hot take. Stephen King was better when he was using. Hey, I don't know if that's a hot take or not.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't think so either. I think definitely his output in the 70s and 80s is his best stuff by far. And since then, he's been pretty hit and miss, I'd say.
From the man himself, man, Alistair Gain. I hope I'm saying that right. Alistair Gain. I hope I am saying that right because you have a wonderful take on that, and I think you're right. For me personally, I don't dive into it a lot, but if the time comes up where I think it'll add to what we're talking about, I will. There's a certain part of you when you're far gone, or you're kind of doing things that you know aren't right. It's just like, I don't give a shit times 10. You kind of do whatever you want, say whatever you want, because at the end of the day, you really at that point don't care about yourself. At least I didn't. I had a really dark time. So I think that may play into what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah.
Book Mama 87 says, Steve, what was the hardest part of finishing your book, and do you have any advice for someone interested in writing?
Okay. Hardest part of finishing it. It's letting go. That's hard. You're always looking. My method of writing, I'm constantly rewriting. I will rewrite a chapter 20 times. I'll work on a chapter for weeks on end and then come back around on myself and constantly layering things in and taking things out. And it's hard to then go, right, it's finished, and actually step away from it. That's pretty tough for me anyway.
That makes sense. So let me ask, before you answer the second part of that, is it like for me, it would be a self-critical thing. Is this good enough? Or for you, is it I don't know if this is good because I'm writing it and that's how I would feel. Or is it, I want to make sure that everything's perfect because I'm a perfectionist?
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You'll always doubt yourself. if you're going, especially if you're going independent, you know, the last thing you want is to put something out there and then someone can come and poke at it and go, it would have worked unless this one little bit has ruined the whole story, kind of thing. You're like, oh yeah, it did. I missed that, you know,
Sure.
that kind of thing. So that's my biggest fear with it. And without somebody else looking over your shoulder and giving you that sort of confirmation, someone who's considered professional, that can, you know, that would make you feel more confident, I think, but perhaps in a false way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You know,
oh my goodness, 100%. I'm sorry.
Supposedly an authority.
Yes, because that does. If I come to you and I say, look, I'm a professional editor, and I think that you have knocked this out of the park, that's going to be more valuable to you than somebody who doesn't consider themselves a professional. And I think that just is a human thing. Yeah. You take somebody who studies something and becomes a professional at it, hopefully, like kind of touching on what you said at the beginning, hopefully they're not touting themselves something that they're not.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of that about.
It's really unfortunate because me personally, I try to do the best that I can with what I have, and if I fall short, like, I'll be the first to say it. Like, in fact, I mean to do that. That way, nobody can like throw it in my face, kind of thing. So people who do the opposite of that, like, oh, I promise I'm the best, I actually suck. I can do this, but I really can't. I've never understood that, not even a little bit.
We call them blaggers over here.
What is it?
We call them blaggers over here.
Blackheads?
Blagger.
Oh, blagger. I haven't heard that, but that's good to know. What would we say over here? Well, a hypocrite. I'm sure there's another word. If I'm missing something, guys, let me know in the comments. So the second part of that question was, do you have any advice for someone interested in writing?
Sure. Write about what you know. Write about what matters to you. And for me, start off with short stories.
Ooh.
I think is a good shout, rather than jumping into a whole book straight away.
What was the hardest thing about formulating a novel that makes you say that?
It was the length and scope of it, you know, and sort of bringing all the characters in, and the fact that it kept growing for me. You know, I had this initially very lean story, and then more character. Although it is still quite lean, I think.
I would call it an average size. I'm looking at it's 260 pages. I don't know what the word count is, but that's an average size.
Yeah, it's like 60,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, more characters were then coming in, and then sort of finding their own little route in the story, and I was having to then deal with them as well. And it wound up with, it was like 3 stories running together, wasn't it? That then they kind of joined together in the end.
I love that too, because man, that's something that it's got to take what your fear is, and what my fear would be. Is it going to come together and make sense to the people who read it? And have I taken enough time to go through, you know, even 60,000, even 10,000 words? You have to make sure that what you're saying is in chronological or some order that you mean to put it in way that you want to convey it. So that's my thing. And that's kind of what I hear from a lot of people. And it makes sense, because as humans, we start something, even if it's doing the dishes. And by the end of it, I've probably messed that process up somewhere, you know?
Oh, yeah. Do you leave stuff to soak?
Right.
Big dirty pan, leave it to soak for the next day. Like,
100%. So Nick is relating. He says, man, that sounds so much like me. This thought terrifies me. There are an infinite number of ways to write a single sentence.
Yeah, isn't there just? Yeah. You got to find the one that sounds best, and then just try and leave it, because you can just keep messing around with it too much sometimes.
I like that bit of advice too, because if you go, you know, changing everything so many times, you could eventually change your way out of something brilliant.
Oh yeah, you unravel the whole thing. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, I think this is the first time I've asked this question, like on purpose, but I wanted to know, I find you to be a highly intelligent person, and I think we have a lot of the same viewpoints as far as.
Very generous, mate.
Oh, thank you. It says, so I want your opinion on violence and like really sexually explicit content in books. To
Okay.
you, from an author's perspective, think that it is more heavily the purpose lies heavily on the shock value, or if there's a reason and supports your premise and your story?
Absolutely, the second. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think just the shock value it's pointless. It's empty. It's a bit
It
redundant,
is.
isn't it? You know, it's like okay, like I've read some books by people, and it is just horrific gore for the sake of it, and you don't care about the characters. It's just overly descriptive gore for 5 pages of like torture or whatever. And you're like, I don't care.
But
You know?
why? Yeah, but
Yeah,
why?
it's like
And
some.
is your brain thinking of this for no reason? Like, to me, you know, uh, just basically exactly. I'm so happy you said that because we agree
Yeah,
1,000,000% on
yeah,
100%. Um, let's see over here. I like to make sure, when I was doing a part of lives before I actually did interviews, one of the coolest things I thought was people put my questions up. So one thing that I like to make sure is that people who have questions, I really like to put them up.
okay.
Um, Great advice, Steve, says Samoki Dude. Mine would be to let go of your fear of failing and write. Okay, so he's giving Book
Fair.
Mama a little bit of what he's saying.
Yeah,
Um, ooh, I think that touches on a deep level, Nick. A lot of people finishing a novel is an epic quest of constant battle against self-doubt.
yeah,
That sounds like most things that us as humans, if we want to be good at, or if we strive to be, or have an ambition to do something, we find ourselves the whole process second guessing ourselves. So I think that people who overcome and want to strive to get better, regardless of that very tiring and exhausting routine that we have of self-doubt, man, bravo.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's good to be like that in a way, though, because then you're always going to be double checking yourself. You're always going to be meticulous. You're always when you do see everything and you know it's right. I think you know.
I think you're right too, because a lot of things again in life, it's like the double-edged sword, uh, I think another good example I've brought up before is like I have severe. My wife will be talking to me, but if I'm into something, I don't even know she's in a room. And I hate that sometimes, but I think that it's a survive. I believe E.L. Montague said one day that it was like a good survival skill. And it is. It's like,
Yeah, men do it actually.
yeah,
We're terrible for it.
my wife
But
would
yeah,
agree
we
with
do do it.
me.
Just tune out the background noise because you're focused on the thing and we don't multitask all that well, do we? We
No.
hone in.
And
Yeah.
I think that's good too, because, if you go back to like the primal, that like at our most primal, a man had to take care of business and be violent. And if he had to, and get food if he had to, and take care of his
Exactly.
family,
Yeah.
that takes concentration.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've always got to be sort of looking out for what's going on and making sure you complete the thing so you're moved on from it to sort of be ready for the next thing. You don't want to be caught off guard. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
it does. It really does. As much as the wife would be like, man, what the hell?
Yeah.
But what is a common theme that you like to read about? For fun, not even necessarily write about.
Common theme. Oh,
Maybe a trope. Like, do you like a coming of age? Do you like good versus evil? Something like that.
I like good versus evil. My book's a little bit more grey, but the good versus evil I think is in there.
It is.
Yeah, good versus evil is always good. And someone getting dragged down into an ever worsening, deepening kind of situation is always good as well. Like your classic like detective stories and things like that, where the situation is gradually escalating. It starts off small and builds up to something really big.
Yeah.
I like that sort of stuff.
That makes beautiful sense because good and evil, I mean, is something that I think a certain amount of it can be taught. But I think inherently we're kind of born with good and evil have being known to some extent. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, if
and
not, you recognize it pretty early, don't you? You know, but like when you're a little kid and you hurt your little brother or whatever, and they cry, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't like that."
right,
You know that that's bad,
I
but
think
you
one of the
might not have
biggest
known that was bad just before you did it.
And I think one of the biggest reasons I feel that way is like just the things that I have never really taught my kids, but I see them doing right.
Yeah,
Like I never told my son to say, um, no, I like this, but I prefer this, or this is lovely, or this is wonderful. And I'm like, whose kid is this? Like
yeah,
some part of that human essence has to be there regardless of what I do as a parent or a guardian, whatever.
yeah.
I think that I would have had one
You
hell
think
of a
nature
conversation.
more than nurture?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think me and Freud would have had one hell of a conversation. Um, Sigmund Freud, man, that would have been so cool to be around to talk with him. Um, anyway, uh, I always like to talk about influences because, well, what influences you, I like what influences you because I've read what you've written. What was that influenced you? Was it an author? Was it a writer? Was it a movie? What's in your head as far as your influences?
Yeah, so there's definitely some movies in there, but more books than anything, and more my own life experiences is in that book in particular. You know, I'll take something and then just be putting horror twists on it. You know, things I've actually experienced. There's so much of stuff I've either seen or heard about that I've then just cranked them up just that little bit to bring them into a more horrific territory. In some cases, not at all. Believe it or not, when you read that book, some of it is just like that's something I know about that happened, or that's something I saw happen, kind
Wow,
of thing. And that's there in all of my writing. Yeah,
I love that because now naturally as somebody who's going to look for those things, I mean, I can relate. There's things I think a lot of people can too. You know, people have been through some things in life, and dark dark times is something that we don't ever hope or wish for, but is something that's inevitable, man. And I think that everybody's different too. Like everybody's going to take this dark thing in my life and it won't be as bad or good for them, vice versa.
yeah,
So I like that you incorporate things that you know about or have seen or this or that in your books. You're not writing about something or speaking on something that you don't have any clue about. And it
yeah.
comes through.
Oh, good, good.
Yes, sir. Who who has had some influence on your writing style, like some of your
Yeah,
favorite writers?
sure. So I would say James Herbert, the horror writer. Do you know James Herbert at all?
I don't. No, I'm writing
No.
everything you're saying down though.
Ah, yeah, James Herbert. In fact, I've got a stack of books here just on purpose.
Nice.
This one.
Ooh, wow, that looks incredible.
Yes, Read the Rats is brilliant. It's one of my favorite books.
The rat.
Absolutely, James Herbert. It's kickstarted Splatterpunk, I believe. They
Ooh,
called him the godfather of Splatterpunk, and that is about a group of mutated giant rats that take over a city, a British
uh-huh.
city by storm, basically, and they're just eating and killing everybody. And it's
When was this
insane
written?
book. Sorry,
When was it written?
the 70s, I believe.
Oh, I love that because
Yeah,
we see a lot of that in modern writing. I would love to read something written in the 70s.
yeah, 74.
Yes. Man, that's one of the tops now. I have to get that 74, The Rats by James Herbert. Okay, let's hear some other ones. I'm excited.
Yeah, sure. Sean Hudson as well, another British horror author.
Sean Hudson.
Sean Hudson wrote Assassin, Slugs. He's much in the vein of James Herbert, I would say. Sometimes he
Okay.
veers more into a bit of exploitation sort of territory,
Uh-huh.
but very entertaining stuff. And I'd say Clive Barker as well, who I've mentioned obviously before on your
Yep.
channel. And a lot of crime writers as well. And your American crime writers as well, like Elmore Leonard and James Elroy.
Okay, I was gonna say, give me a few because my wife, like, I love crime. Don't get me wrong, but it's not something that has my attention right now. I can't give my wife what she needs as far as recommendations. So
Sure.
give me a few.
Yeah, sure. So anything Elmore Leonard, you won't go wrong.
Elmore Leonard.
Elmore Leonard, yeah. He like Tarantino adapted one of his books for Jackie Brown.
Oh,
The TV show
wow.
Justified, that was Elmore Leonard. Get Shorty, all like intricate crime stories. Everyone's sort of trying to get the best of each other. Very tangled stories. They're great, and the dialogue's brilliant. It's always very funny.
Ooh,
Very sharp.
I love
So,
the
yeah.
dialogue too.
Yeah.
There's certain people who can just capture that dark but funny.
Yeah.
Dark but funny, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't expect that. Like this author does wonderful with dialogue. So Elmore Leonard, could I have a couple more?
Leonard. Yeah, sure. James Ellroy. You heard of him? He
I
writes
have.
a lot of stuff around LA, like the 1950s and things like that, about the LAPD during that time, like LA Confidential, The Black Dahlia, Big Nowhere.
Wow.
There was a whole series that he did sort of set around this time. I think the Dudley Smith trilogy. This main character sort of hovers over it all. That's all really good stuff.
That sounds right up my
Dennis
wife's
Lehane, yes. Yeah, Dennis Lehane's great. The Kenzie Gennaro books, they're good.
Look at that. I'm sure you know by his name, but he's over in Oklahoma.
Right.
From what I understand, it's very flat, not a lot to do, so you must read lots of books.
Okay.
Let's see. Man, we're so similar in our taste, Steve-O.
Yeah, I had a suspicion we might be.
I was looking at full disclosure, Nick. Believe it was EC Grease told me about your basketball career, and we're both tall. He's like 6'10", Nick is.
Yeah.
And I'm 6'5", and I played basketball, but I sucked. And from what I hear, man, Nick was a rebound god, grabbing the rock. Yeah. This is my ball kind of guy.
Amazing.
So,
awesome. Well, that fits the character, doesn't it? The character of Sledge, tough geezer.
It's very intense. I love it, man. I love it. If just from talking to Nick, man, I think he put a lot of himself in his writing too. So I think you guys just naturally get along. So
cool.
Absolutely. Elo of the good old days, man. He was talking about Yao Ming the other day. It's like, man, if you've seen any bit of basketball in your life, you know who Yao Ming is. He was talking about doing like calf stretches with the backboard. This dude's like 7'6".
Ow.
Yeah. It sounds, ow, exactly. Like, Anyway, sorry I went on a little bit.
I feel like the shorty for once. I'm only 6'3".
Oh, no, you're tall. You are tall. Look at that, the tall people. There's lots of tall people I've met through this. Tim McKay the other night told me he was 6'4". So wow. I can relate because we've all got knee pain, right?
Yeah, my right knee in particular.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's bad.
So my wife will love those recommendations. Thank you, because every day she's like, you should be reading my mind because you know what I want to read. It's like I get what you want to read, but I can't tell you who writes this. And that sounds like she would love all of these recommendations. Sure. So, where did your love for literature stem from? And then after that, where did your love for horror in particular stem from too?
Sure. Love for reading. I think my mum got me reading very early on as a kid. She would read to me and then teach me how to read. I learned to read quite early, according to her. And she was always buying me books. And then comic books caught my attention as well. I was so into comic books for a long time. In the 80s, comic books were crazy. They'd be sold to kids for 99p, and you'd open it up and it'd be about the Punisher's locked down in prison and he's having to fashion a homemade silencer to take some guy out or something.
And back then, it's not like you could just go to the internet and look for a story that interested you. You were waiting for this to come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every week. And it was really annoying as well. If you went to the shop and it was gone, you weren't going to get it. That was it. The one or two copies that were there. You have to wait and hope that you could beat the person who was buying it the previous week,
Wow, that's super cool, man. I love hearing that because that's like, I was born in 1990, so I remember no cell phones. I remember the beginnings of like having a home PC. Like I think I got mine in 2001. But like I remember stuff, but that would have been cool to experience. Like you walk to the store to get the story you've been looking forward to, and then you can't necessarily just turn the TV on and get the story you want, or the internet. So I think that shaped a lot of people.
Yeah.
And built that fire in you for stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, chasing them down.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Rob Lay. I hope I'm saying that right, by the way, but Rob Lee or Rob Lay. I'm so sorry if one of those are wrong, Rob. Up and coming indie author. He wrote the Pathlighter. It comes out, I believe, November 20th. So check out it. It's wonderful, guys.
Cool.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just about to answer Rob's question there. I didn't read Swamp Thing. That was big in the 80s, though.
Look at me. I went on a tangent and I didn't even see the question. I am so sorry, Rob. Did you ever get into a Swamp Thing? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I didn't get into Swamp Thing, unfortunately. But I hear it's good.
It's funny he brings that. Okay, so he says, sounds like Lee. No worries. Oh, good. That's what I thought it was. But, I've got my last name Sorensen, so I have heard the worst renditions of that. I think somebody even went like Silverado. Like that sounds nothing like my. Like, come on, did you even read my last name?
That'd be a Hollywood name.
He said you sound like someone. Okie dude. Some Okie dude says you sound like someone who likes Constantine. Constantine. Do you, Steve?
Oh yeah, I read the. What was it? You probably know. I might be getting it wrong, but it was like Bad Habits or something like that. The Garth Ennis run was pretty good. I remember reading bits of that.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think it was Garth Ennis wrote that one. That was decent. I like that. I read a couple of his stories.
Good deal. The Constantine that comes to my mind is a movie.
Yeah, the Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, he was supposed to be. The character was a Scouser with blonde hair.
Yeah. Wow.
He was from Liverpool.
That's awesome.
And then they cast Keanu Reeves. Oh, okay. But
an adaptation.
Americans right? Would have understood the accent if it was
Yeah, that's always possible. I've always understood the differences in accents and stuff. I guess I have a trained ear, but I know a lot of people are like, I didn't understand this. I'll say, but it's English. Like you should have understood it.
Yeah.
But is it like that?
Scouse accent's pretty thick. It's pretty tough.
Oh, well, then I'll take your advice on that. Let's see here. Knoxwich Book Life. Thank you for coming back. I know that I probably hacked your name up yesterday or whenever it was you came, but I hope I'm saying that right. Knoxwich Book Life. The Constantine in DC's Legends of Tomorrow is literally the stereotype.
Oh, cool.
Good deal. I'll have to check that out more now because it sounds cool from the way that you put it, Steve.
Yeah.
So what about horror in general? What was that sparked you into the horror genre?
Catching bits of movies. Definitely. I think going to the video shop and the old VHS covers would all the horror movies would be in a separate section that you kind of had to walk through, and you'd be eye level to, and you've seen what the covers were like in the 80s, the VHS covers. They were really in your face, weren't they? They were like quite shocking images, and it was kind of a dare as a little 4-year-old to sort of toddle on in there and see how long you could last in there looking at it all, and then run back out.
Now, see how much I was just talking to my wife about this before we came on, like. Something that is attractive and what is dark and maybe not good or moral can honestly be loved or liked based out of the sense of you're not supposed to like it, or just like you weren't supposed to go see those covers, but you did. And it was exciting for you. It was exhilarating, and that furthered your love for the genre in a very intimate way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's what horror's all about, isn't it? It's about showing you something scary and you being able to deal with that thing. I think that's what it's, at its core, that's what we're doing when we go to watch a horror film or read a horror book or anything like that. We're looking at something scary and sort of getting that cathartic experience of getting through that.
Yeah, 100%. One that comes to my mind is because I'm a huge horror movie fan. Not the old Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one with Jennifer Alba is her name, I believe. Jessica Biel, my
Oh
wife
yeah,
over here,
yeah,
corrected me. Thank God, because I would have messed it up. But so you've got Gunny as the cop, and he's just a dirty bastard, and like it shows the hole in her head. Like I just remember that movie in particular. I was at the movies seeing it back when people did that. Like
yeah.
I love the movies. I wish that was still. It is a thing still, but it's not as much a thing.
It's not as big of an event as it. It's not
It's
as
not.
social as it used to be. We used to go to the cinema every week.
Yeah, same here. I remember the first time I ever went was to see James and the Giant Peach.
Oh yeah,
Wonderful movie. But I saw
Roald
that.
Dahl. Yeah,
Yeah.
that might
Yes.
actually Roald Dahl is probably an impact as well because a lot of his stuff was what I read very early on. And you think how grim that is and the sort of the dark morality of
is.
a lot of Roald Dahl stuff. Yeah, that's definitely there. That would have been an influence.
For a kids movie, I watch it as an adult, and I realized like there's some deep, dark elements in this, especially at the beginning with the two women. I haven't
Yeah,
read the book, but the stepmothers or his guardian, I don't know what they are to him particularly, his aunts, I think, or something. But they're very mean. And then
yeah,
the monster coming out of the cloud, man, that just still hits me in a certain way.
yeah.
Um, let's see. Let's catch up on these chats. I love it. People chat, man. It's so fun. It always brings this dynamic to it.
That's pretty cool.
Let's see. Yeah, Sledge was born in the VHS horror section at Mr. Movies. That was your local one. Okay. So is that a chain? You'll have to let me know. The one that I had in Wilmington, Ohio,
Yeah.
was First Choice Video. That was ours. First Choice Video. Where I rented. Go ahead.
My town, it was all independents, and sometimes they were part of just like a normal shop, like a newsagents. So different ones had different stuff. So you'd cruise around all over town on your bikes to find different movies and things that you knew were at different stores because they wouldn't all get the same stuff. They weren't big enough. We didn't have like a Blockbuster until I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was what we did.
I got tired of the Blockbusters. I liked what Nick says down here, no local owned shop. I loved those.
Yeah.
Rob Lee says The Witches is absolutely horrific.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Is that by Roald Dahl?
That was Roald Dahl, yeah. And the 80s movie in particular was pretty disturbing.
I'll have to check that out. I see this is so good. I have an endless movie list now, like book lists. This is just, it's amazing to me.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
My kids are 4, 3, 1, and 2 weeks.
Okay. Probably wait a couple of years to show the oldest The Witches then.
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's funny
time,
you say that.
It'll be good.
It's funny you say that because I bring up reading my oldest kid, The Hobbit. And it's like I go to grab it like every night because I really want to read that to him. And I want him to understand it as well. My wife's just like, bro, he's 4. Like I'm still reading to him, don't get me wrong. But I want that to be his first, like, oh my gosh, like there's this whole other I can use my imagination. And J.K. Rowling, wow, he'd kill me for that. J.R.R. Tolkien really brings that out of kids, I feel like, and sets, because it's not raunchy what he writes about. It can be
clean,
violent.
isn't it? Very wholesome.
Yeah. And I think that that's a good way to spark where your interest will eventually be, especially for a kid. I want him to come up with that, and I want to give him, maybe a foundation, but he chooses where he goes with that. Let's see. It's like we had the same childhood, Steve, worlds apart. That's so cool. The world is smaller the older I get. It's like we're all very similar, aren't we?
Yeah. And the internet helps, doesn't it?
It sure does. I think the coolest one is New Zealand is pretty far away.
Yeah.
India. I've talked to a couple guys in India. But it's like, man, you couldn't do that postmodern or pre-modern times.
True.
You would have to set that up for a year in advance and get, somehow do that on the phone. I don't know, but it's just cool. Zoofries, Zoo Fries. He's got it split up in his words, so I hope that's how he says it. Is there a genre of horror you've always wanted to experiment in, or do you think you found your niche? Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, Hot Dose of Hell is grounded more in reality, isn't it? So there's.
Is that you? Is that you, Isaac? Sorry, I think it's Isaac. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. So yeah, my next project is actually got more of a supernatural layer to it. So that's my next move on that.
I'm so sorry about that.
That's all right, mate.
That's all. So would you repeat the very last? I really wanted to hear that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of genre of horror, like I want to do some supernatural stuff as well. Like Hot Dose of Hell is grounded in a sort of reality, and these will still have that gritty realism, but introducing supernatural creatures into that.
So tell me if I'm wrong, because I haven't read a whole lot of like Lovecraft or something like a cosmic horror.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah,
Okay.
I did write a story that had crazy interdimensional demon character came into it. That was published by Hellbound Books a few years ago.
What was the name of that?
That story, it was in their shopping list anthology, and the story was called Angel of Mercy, and I've actually got the rights back to it now, so I'm gonna package that up in another collection.
I'm so excited to read it.
Yeah. And I did another supernatural one for them as well in their Splatterpunk collection. And to say what the supernatural element is in that story would spoil it. So,
okay, don't do that. But what's the name of it?
So that was their collection of Splatterpunk. It was the Hellbound Books Splatterpunk anthology, I think.
Awesome.
And that one's also on audio. Actually, all the stories I wrote for them got audio adapted as well. So
man, just gold. I'm learning gold. All right. Let's see. We got some questions. Reading to your kids. I appreciate when people do that. Talk about the kids part of it, because I think that's really cool. Because we were all kids, every one of us, and our interests as adults, even if they're extremely, if they're dark, wholesome, like you said, it doesn't matter. Those things, everybody, there's a lot of people who love both, and those stem from a young age. Your experiences, what you go through. So reading to your kids is huge. Even Montague says, don't worry about whether they understand it. They will understand at their own level. I agree. I still, like I said, I still read to them, not as much as I want to. But I really want like their first novel to be read to them by me, that kind of sets their foundation up for their imagination. Let's see here. So what's next for Steve Stark?
So next is my collection, Violent Ends. That's 3 stories, 2 novella-length stories and a short story on the front there. And they're more of a supernatural type vibe, a little bit Tales from the Crypt-ish, like a nasty story with a twisted sting in the tail.
Wow, I like how you put that. So when can we expect that? Because you know that I'm gonna absolutely shout about it from the rooftops. Oh, cool. You know I will.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the cover. That's all I'm waiting on, is the cover art. It's done. It's ready to go. I'm already starting to jot ideas onto my next project. So as soon as the cover's put together, I'll be dropping it. Hopefully by end of this month.
Awesome. Well, if you ever want me to help you out with the cover reveal, man, I'd be honored. So
thank you.
Keep me in mind.
Will do.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it though. Just first of all, I love the name Violent Ends.
Yeah. There's
just names that I would have never come up with. Like it's just, you're doing what you're meant to do. No, that's no problem, Isaac. I just wanted to make sure. I like to address the people I'm speaking to. I respect every one of you, so I want to make sure you guys know that by me letting you know I know your names at least. So, oh wow, that is cool. Nick Horvath says my daughter is reading It. I'm so proud. That's it. How old is your daughter? And it one hell of a book. I mean, that thing is
tough, isn't it? Yeah, it's a big one.
1,080 pages, I believe, something like that.
Yeah, something crazy like that.
First day buy. That's a first day. Oh yeah, I agree with you, Nick. Dude, that's a first day buy. I agree. So that's fun. So Violent Ends. That's what's coming next for you. Where can people who want to follow you and find your work do so?
Twitter, or whatever it's calling itself these days. You can find me on True Social, Getter, Minds, Gab. I'm everywhere, but some of the mainstream ones. The closest to any mainstream social media I'm on is the Twitter.
Twitter. What about buying your work?
You can find it all. Actually, you can get it from the paperback from most bookshops, or their websites at least. The ebook is only at Amazon at the moment. I went onto one of those little deals with them, but that comes free mid-November, and I'll put it back out everywhere else. It has been everywhere else before, so it'll be on most ebook retailers again in about a month's time.
Okay, so just to name some: Amazon, Barnes and Nobles,
Waterstones.
Waterstones.
Yeah.
Yep. So no, we don't. Not in the U.S., but like we can still order from Waterstones and stuff. So I like to keep it. I have people from all over watching this stuff, so it's good to know all of the. I want to put it everywhere that people can support you in the description. So that's why I asked this.
Yeah, those are obviously the main ones, but then there's like when I occasionally check on it to see where you can buy it, there's shops I've never heard of. I've got
Isn't that weird?
It's everywhere now. Yeah, it's really strange.
Now, so this is just because I'm ignorant to it. Say you find a shop that you had no idea. Does that mean, okay, so say it's a physical book. Does that mean somebody bought it from where you retail your books and then is redistributing it?
Potentially, yeah. Yeah.
And now is that legal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they get it through, I think they get it through Amazon affiliates. I think it's where they get it. And then in some cases, there might be some people that are selling like secondhand copies as well.
Okay.
I hope people keep my book.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely understand that. So Nick says his daughter, wow, 11 going on 21. Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
11 years old. Wow, that's one hell of a chomp of a book, man. So good for her.
I couldn't have tackled it at 11. No way.
The themes, just even the themes. Yeah. So very smart.
I think that was when the miniseries, the original one with Tim Curry.
No.
You've never seen it?
I've never seen the miniseries. Now I've seen all the movies.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was definitely played as a miniseries over 2 nights on TV when I was a kid.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I've seen that. I didn't know that's how it was played.
The old one, 1990, with Tim Curry and that.
Yes, I have seen that one.
So I was like that age when I saw that, and I didn't touch the book for another couple of years.
I remember how much that movie impacted me. It was one that me and my sister rented so many times from First Choice Video that I was speaking about that we could have owned it like 10 times. Yeah. We did that with quite a few movies, though. Do you remember renting one movie over and over again?
Oh yeah, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight was a big one. Have you seen that? I used to rent all the time. From Dusk Till Dawn.
That's nostalgia.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I love that one. What else? There's a bunch. Some tapes would just be like, I swear they'd probably look at you and think, "What are you doing taking this out again?"
Yeah. You're like, tell your mom and dad to go buy this because you've paid for it like 15 times now.
Yeah.
But it's all about the experience too. Like, there's nothing like going through and like, damn, that one's got the red sticker, so I can only have it for a night, and we know that I'm not going to return it on time. So then the next time I want to do this, they're going to tell me no because we've got a bunch of friggin' fees. I didn't know that. Knox Witch Book Life. I want to find out your real name. Just the respect thing. The guy that owns Barnes and Noble owns Waterstones. I did not know that.
No, I didn't know
that. Nick says, that series scared the life out of me. A bunch of kids dressed up as clowns and got on the news, so I was 100% certain Pennywise was real. That one was a little scary when I was younger, but the kids nowadays, now I don't know how desensitization works into this, but Pennywise is scary now.
Yeah.
Like very eerie, very grotesque. His big forehead, like just very
they ramped it up, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
So Tim Curry is the first guy that did Pennywise.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, that was a fun one. So we found out you're on Twitter. We've got. I'll put all that fun descriptive stuff down in the descriptions, all your links, so everybody can find you.
Cool.
This is kind of the part of the interview I like to kind of offer to you if you have anything, something coming up, something that you want to highlight, literally anything. It's just a little bit of time if you need it to shout about something.
Sure. So obviously my other book that's coming out soon, Violent Ends, look for that. I don't know, I could nod to some of the other guys who've helped me along the way, like other YouTubers. The Red Pilled Fiction Factory. That's Richard Nichols. I've got his book here, actually.
That's a new one for me. I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah, it's like James Bond, but way more hardcore.
Nice.
Like a modern James Bond, but very rugged.
It was Red Pilled. It was
Red Pilled Fiction Factory.
Fiction Factory. Okay.
Yeah, I did one of my first appearances on there. And
that's awesome.
He shines a light on a lot of different authors who are sort of working outside the mainstream.
I love that.
Yeah.
Any others?
Any others? Yeah, it's just some of my fellow writers. Let's see. Joseph DeLacy, Weed. That's a great story.
Ooh, I love this. Joseph DeLacy. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's about a giant killer weed that takes over the grounds of this rich, very powerful family who are kind of like pulling the strings all over the world. You know, they're a little bit like NWO type people, you know, and this weed gets dropped on their land and starts taking over. It's a little bit Body Snatchers, Pod People. It's The Thing. It's a little bit like all of those, you know. It's great.
And then the theme is so loud already over that. These people who are pulling strings, let's see what happens to those people.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome, man.
It's great. It's great. Another channel that was very good to me was Nuclear Poultry Productions. Does movie reviews and book reviews. Very good channel. One of the first to review my book.
Nuclear Poultry Production.
Yeah. And the Bold Book Geek, you might already know him.
Yep.
He's a good dude. He's been kind about my book as well. So I want to shout about him.
Yes, I've heard of him.
I've got a couple more.
Yeah, please.
So Muscle by John Davies.
Ooh.
That's a great book. That is about a nightclub bouncer who gets into a kind of a feud with a local drug dealer, and it comes down to what we call a straightener, a one-on-one fight out to sort of settle their differences kind of thing. I really love that one because I was a bouncer for a long time myself, and he really nails the psychology. He really understands like what it feels like and what goes through your mind and how you feel in those kind of situations. So great book, really intense, quick read.
That sounds awesome.
And you fly through it. You just, you know, so it's a great book. John Davies.
Got it written.
Yeah. And another one, R.T. Lawrence.
Oh, now that is a wonderful cover. The Omega Countdown.
Yeah, it's a harsh one, isn't it?
It spoke to me for sure.
Apocalyptic zombie book written by a guy who definitely knows his guns and vehicles and his terrain. He understands exactly how it would go down in his area kind of thing, you know. It's very good.
Man, you're really gonna love Sledge, man. You just described Nick's writing to a key. He knows his guns and terrain. Yeah. It's based in wintry Minnesota, which it's cold there. Yeah. So who was the author to the Omega Countdown?
The Omega Countdown, I do apologize. Yeah, so that was R.T. Lawrence. Put that back up again.
R.T. Lawrence. All right.
Yeah. It's a solid zombie book. It's his first part. I'm waiting for him to do his next part. And I keep encouraging him to write a story about a zombie bear or something because he's always having to deal with bears where he is.
So, look, I mentioned this before we started, E.L. Montague. That's the first thing I said to him, so it's great that you brought it up. He says,
Yeah.
"I love the Sex Pistols on your wall. You want to share the story?"
Oh yeah, thanks, man. So that's actually signed by. Let me get off the wall. That's actually signed by
So
John
awesome.
Lydon himself. He was coming down our way, and I got some tickets for my mum to meet him. She'd been a lifelong fan, so she
That's
met him.
so
And when she
cool.
went there, she took the sleeve and got it signed for me.
Oh man, I love that. I love it. I'm so glad he asked that question because I wanted to hear you talk. That's so cool, man. Your mother,
Yeah.
being a fan brings you that. So, did you know you were getting that?
No, I didn't know.
Wow,
So,
what a
yeah, when she
present.
brought that back for me, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that is doubly awesome. I totally agree. So, a little bit of a sum up. I'm going to have as many. I'll get all. I'll come back and watch this, and also plug in those guys that you mentioned at the end. That's a wonderful thing you did.
Oh, thank you.
People,
glad to do it.
yeah, 100%. That's great. I will make sure to plug those guys in the description. Your links obviously will be in the description. And gosh, I hope this isn't our last talk because I've said lots of fun. Like I said, this is my first horror conversation, and we can get a lot more in depth once I'm fully done with the book first. But when I have a chance to kind of rethink about the themes and ask a little more maybe of a sporlier questions.
Yeah, sure, that'd be great. Like I said, I told you before, I haven't really had many deep conversations with anyone about the book because not a lot of my friends know about my writing or anything like that. So that'd be great. I'd love to do that.
That's a cool aspect, by the way. Like, do people find out and they're like, "What the hell, man? I didn't know this," or were they like, "Oh, that's awesome"?
Yeah, bit of both, really.
Yeah.
Because it's some unusual stuff as well, isn't it? It's quite edgy material.
Well, yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from. Yeah. Nick says though, he says, "Steve, if you haven't read it, Donnybrook by Frank Bill by Frank Bill immediately."
Cool. All right. I'll take your word for it, Nick. I'll grab that.
There you go. Well, man, it's been a blast. And like I said, this won't be our last talk. Thanks everybody who tuned in. Thank you for letting me borrow you for a little bit, Steve. I've had a wonderful time and I hope you have a wonderful night.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure.
Until next time. Yeah, no problem. And until next time, guys, yeah, we will see. Well, tonight at 9, I have Zach Argyle. So that will be fun. So tune in then. See you guys.